Now I am pleased to introduce a special telling of Golden Threads, the story of women at Notre Dame. Thank you to Beth Crizzoli, class of 1987, for her wonderful work, and it truly is wonderful, in developing this storytelling approach. Allow me to introduce my fellow storytellers, who will tell this story in words, music, and pictures. Joining me in the narrator roles are Arienne Thompson Plourde, class of 2004, and Brigid Harrington, who just received her degree with the class of 2022 just a few weeks ago. Congratulations. And behind me are some of my favorite musicians. They are providing the music John Williams and Packy Lundholm, along with my dear friend John Scully, class of 1980, who composed who not only wrote Here Come the Irish, but he's composed a very special original piece for tonight's performance that you are about to hear. In 1842, by the time Father Edward Sorn blazed a trail north through Indiana, he had considered what it would take to establish a university. And being a shrewd man, he knew one thing he'd definitely need to be successful was women. He recruited Holy Cross sisters from France, and within a year, 4 arrived at Notre Dame. The youngest was 19 years old, the same age as some first-year undergraduate students. Many more crossed the Atlantic to serve at the fledgling school dedicated to Mary, the woman full of grace. And so vital were the Holy Cross sisters to the success of the university that a century later, in 1958, Father Ted Hesburgh told them, "You have been the golden threads woven forever into the tapestry of Notre Dame's life." So women helped build the Notre Dame dream from the outset. They not only tended to the students, they tended to the chickens and dairy cows. Women taught in the grammar school. They taught children in the early days and eventually at the college level. By the 1900s, religious sisters were taking classes and earning degrees. In 1965, a co-exchange program began with St. Mary's College and allowed Notre Dame and St. Mary's students to take courses on either campus. That same year, Lewis Hall was built specifically for religious sisters in graduate programs. But that wasn't enough for Father Ted. He believed that women ought to have the same opportunities as men. And he wondered how Notre Dame could make an impact on the world while barring the door to half the population.
So in November 1971, Father Ted officially made the decision to admit women as undergraduates in residence and promptly assigned Sister John Miriam Jones to make it happen. 325 women moved onto campus the following fall. Sister John described them as a force to be reckoned with. They were the brightest and the highest achieving among their peers, and Father Ted was delighted. By doubling the number of possible applicants, Notre Dame could raise its admission standards. Sister John and Sister Jean Lentz quickly became strong and steady mentors for these undergraduate women. And for years, it was their deep faith and sage advice that were a reliable compass guiding Notre Dame women. The naysayers had warned Father Ted that the place will go soft. It won't amount to anything anymore. The vindication on that one was sweet. In the first years, women in the College of Arts and Letters outperformed their male counterparts in GPA. In the College of Science, they equaled the GPA of the men. And within 2 years, Marianne O'Connor was named the first female valedictorian. The Wall Street Journal reported that Notre Dame had attained academic prestige, attracted noted scholars, and excelled in research. Admittedly, it was a bit painful for many of the men to leave their hallowed halls and watch as curtains appeared in the windows. But most were happy to have more female company on the storied campus. And there are some stories, let me tell you. Like the night Sister Jean Lentz single-handedly blockaded Farley Hall's entrance from a band of Notre Dame men streaking like wild revelers. She sent them running for the bushes. And when Billie Jean King clobbered Bobby Riggs on the tennis court, the men's plan for a panty raid fizzled because campus went wild. As plaid clothes and platform shoes made way for permed hair and polo shirts, Notre Dame women continued to shine. The 1980s brought the first female band major and a national title for women fencers. Notre Dame women had fought long and hard to gain varsity status for their sports, and they did not disappoint. More national championships followed.
By the 1990s, the number of undergraduate men and women in classrooms had almost evened out, and slowly, women were taking more seats in the boardrooms of Notre Dame. Two new faces on campus during Father Monk Malloy's presidency were Carolyn Wu, the first female dean of the Mendoza College of Business, who led the undergraduate school to a national #1 ranking 5 years in a row, and Muffet McGraw, who coached the women's basketball team to win 2 national titles. Father Malloy made history by appointing Patty O'Hara as Vice President of Student Affairs. More and more boundaries fell away. It took almost 30 years, but at the turn of the millennium, a very brave Molly Kinder tried out for the Irish Guard and made it. And Brooke Norton became the first female student body president. A few years later, Father John Jenkins opened the Gender Relations Center in La Fortune to foster and support healthy relationships between women and men. It was the first of its kind in the country. He's appointed 19 women to serve as deans, vice presidents, and provost. More will certainly follow. Then in 2016, the doors of Flaherty Hall opened as the first residence hall named for a female graduate, Mary Hesburgh Flaherty, class of 1979. Admitting undergraduate women to Notre Dame was pivotal in balancing tradition and progress. The path had steep climbs, switchbacks, and drop-offs, but it brought us to a Notre Dame where women and men have an equal opportunity of admission, where both women and men can become researchers and Rhodes Scholars, entrepreneurs and educators, admirals and architects. Notre Dame women excel, and the world has noticed. As Father Ted said, the women have done it all. I knew they would.